Arriving at Pohana Waipahu Transit Center Station. Doors will open on the right side.
Aloha, I'm Maggie McGeehee, a master's degree student in second language studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm a relative newcomer to Honolulu and a transit planner and enthusiast. This project explores language on Honolulu's Skyline light rail system, bringing together my favorite things. I wanted to ask the question, how was language used on Skyline to convey a local sense of place? Specifically, with the rail's carefully selected Hawaiian station names and announcements in English and in Olelo, Hawaii, what is the intended and actual impact of these choices on riders' perceptions? To explore these questions, I'll first talk with a regular daily rail commuter, then a mother and son who ride Skyline occasionally for fun, and multiple passengers on the street. I'll also speak with two people intimately involved with both the landscape and the soundscape of transit in Honolulu. Before moving to Oahu in 2019, I worked as a transportation planner in Seattle, Washington for 13 years. I love transit. Buses, trains, shuttles, trams, streetcars, you name it, I can't get enough. I arrived in Honolulu 6 years ago, eager to become a passenger of the bus, a 2-time winner of the American Public Transit Association's Small System of the Year Award, the only transit system to earn this recognition twice. And I was looking forward to the opening of the long, under-construction Skyline train. Skyline would be the first fully automated rail system in the country, and I couldn't wait. Instead, though, I quickly learned in my eager newcomer conversations with friends, family, and acquaintances that the rail was beleaguered, to say the least. With cost overruns at $7 billion over budget, over a decade of construction delays, and concerns about a shortened service area, the public discourse overwhelmingly painted the rail as a behemoth boondoggle blight. Among those I talked to, and what I read online and heard in the media, it seemed that everyone hated the rail. I felt increasingly uncomfortable being a transit fan generally, and a rail enthusiast specifically, especially as someone not local, not from here. When Skyline's first segment opened on June 30th, 2023 under this scrutiny, the public was invited to ride free of charge over the extended holiday weekend. My family and I drove from town and parked at Halawa Aloha Stadium Station to ride it during the opening week. Twice, that is, on 2 different days. We noticed the use of Olelo Hawaii in station names, in placemaking displays, and in onboard announcements. We noticed the beautiful views from the elevated guideway. We noticed the celebration and joy in the faces and in the exclamations of all of the other passengers who came out to try rail that first weekend. 70,000 of us. It seemed at the time like rail might really turn around. But the problem is, it is still beleaguered by the cost overruns and the delay and the perception that it, quote, doesn't go anywhere. In the 2 years since opening, not much has changed in the overall public dialogue. People still call for construction to stop short at Middle Street, or to stop altogether. Commenters mock and decry the waste and the expense, and write that they have never and will never ride. And yet, 3,400 passengers continue to board Skyline every day. These are 3,400 trips that would otherwise be sitting in standstill traffic on the surface streets with everyone else. While the online and media discourse remains overall quite negative, we may not be hearing from Skyline's actual passengers. I wondered, what do Skyline's riders notice on the rail? What do they hear when announcements play in Olelo, Hawaii? When talking about their commutes, do they use the carefully chosen Hawaiian station names or the contemporary place name? As I started my search for passengers to talk to, I had the great good fortune to discover I already knew a rail commuter, a fellow student in second language studies, PhD student and UH Manoa Filipino language instructor, Precious Arao.
I live on the west side, so Ewa Beach, specifically the Ho'opili neighborhood. So my daily commute involves driving my car, then getting on the train, and then transferring to the bus.
You're a very multimodal commuter.
Yes. I am.
So do you consider yourself to be a transit enthusiast or a train fan at all?
I never labeled myself such, but I always support public transit because since high school I've been taking the bus. That really affected my life, the transit, really moving away from driving because I used to drive to town and I hated it because of the traffic. I would have to wake up at 5:30 a.m. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Which station do you get on at home, did you say?
Oh, the Honouliuli station?
Honolulu.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. And you use this Hawaiian station name rather than Ho'opili, and that the more contemporary place name and for the development there? Like
Yes. So when I Google the bus times, if you put Ho'opili, it might lead you to the community, not really the station. So for me, it's kind of internalized that, what time is the bus Honouliuli? And then if I want to know the bus time at Halava, I type in Halava station. Because if you put Aloha Stadium, I'm not going to Aloha Stadium.
Right.
Yeah, so definitely I use the Hawaiian names to look up those stations. But sometimes I find myself going to West Oahu too. So that one I would put West Oahu. Yeah, so.
You're thinking about your destination in that case. So you're actually going to UH West Oahu. You're trying to get to that campus.
Yeah. And then with Honouliuli, there are no other landmarks around. So for example, sometimes I would get off at the Waipahu station, the one after the Waipahu Transit Center. I would put First Hawaiian Bank because First Hawaiian Bank is next to it. So then I would just zoom out and then click the bus icon. Yeah.
So good.
Because I don't remember the station name. I think it's
Pohala?
Pohala, there you go. But I know it's the station next to First Hawaiian Bank.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
I was wrong. The stop next to First Hawaiian Bank?
The next stop is Ho'ai'ai West Lock Station.
We all work based on landmarks. That's kind of similar. Like when I do drive, I find I either have to ask the lady on Google Maps to talk to me and tell me where to go, or I follow the route the bus takes me when I'm on the bus because I know how to get there that way. But I wouldn't know what the street names are necessarily.
Yep, exactly.
I notice a few things. First, how we talk about stations and which station name we choose depends on exactly how we're thinking of the destination. Where am I going? Am I ultimately going to Waipahu Transit Center? Am I trying to get to my job or class at UH West Oahu? Or am I just thinking in this moment specifically about which station I will alight at? Is it named Halava or Honouliuli, which is easier to find on Google Maps and more precise than a larger area referred to as the entire Aloha Stadium area or the entire neighborhood development called Ho'opili? Precious and I didn't remember that the station after Waipahu Transit Center is named Ho'ai'ai. But we didn't remember the contemporary place name of that station either, Westlock. She's conceptualizing that stop based on where it falls in her journey, after another landmark, the Waipahu Transit Center. As someone trying to get from one place to another, she knows where she is going, and she knows it's close to First Hawaiian Bank. Landmarks matter in how we think of places, and the names we use to signal them. What does it mean to you that there are Hawaiian station names?
Yeah, I mean, having Hawaiian names as the station names was a really good move. I think it gives it that unique feature and also, makes it Hawaiian. And it's also a chance for us to learn to say these words. You could look it up on your Google and see what it means, right? So, for example, like Ho'opili is a Hawaiian word too. So that's the name of the neighborhood. So as you enter the neighborhood, they actually have a translation of Ho'opili, which means coming together. So it's a huge sign there. So there's Ho'opili and then the definition of it.
Oh,
so,
wow.
That's a good way to learn Hawaiian words and what they mean.
And just have it part of our daily lives.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, I lost my train of thought. But anyways, yeah.
Okay, I can't help it. She lost her train of thought. Comedy gold. I've noticed too that when the train is going out of service, so at the end of the day, it switches from the voice of the bus to this computerized voice. Have you heard?
It's a lady, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I noticed that whenever elevator or escalator is broken,
Oh,
it's
interesting.
It's that lady. Yeah.
I had only heard at the very end when it's about to stop running, she'll say the Skyline is going out of service or something like that.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same voice. Something
lady.
like that.
I wonder too, I'll ask them if I have the opportunity to speak with someone from Skyline, why are those the computer?
Maybe they just type it and then have the automatic whatever say it.
That's a really good point. Precious was exactly right here. The computerized voice is a text-to-speech reader, used for messages that haven't been recorded yet. We both noticed that jarring pronunciation of mahalo from the computer lady, which is in stark contrast to the dulcet tones of the usual voice of the train and bus. More on this later in the podcast.
Attention all passengers, Skyline Rail service will end in 15 minutes. Mahalo.
From your perspective, does the presence of Olelo Hawaii on the announcements and station names and the placemaking signs feel authentic? Like it genuinely appears there rather than kind of like pasted on top?
I think the move to have even a team to decide what the station names are really, feels authentic already. But to be fair, like for example, the Honolulu Uli station, for me, it doesn't only reflect like Hawaiian, but it also reflects what happened in that space. So it used to be a Japanese concentration camp. Mm-hmm. So there is that history there that tied to that name. Yeah, I think it does feel authentic in a way, but also kind of reminding us of the past that happened in Hawaii. But I do like the emphasis on the Hawaiian because we are in Hawaii, and those words are very much important to learn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You seem to like the train and enjoy riding. Do you think other people also enjoy riding the train?
The commuters, I think so. I mean, they don't look like they're unhappy because everyone's sitting, chilling, and just enjoying the view. A lot of people take photos of the view. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the hate in the comments, like on social media, are people who aren't using it. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? It doesn't serve all neighborhoods, but I feel like we're missing the voice of the people who actually take it. There's a lot of them. So I think their perspective needs to be heard.
In this first conversation, I learned that the Hawaiian station names are useful both symbolically and for utilitarian purposes. These names give passengers the opportunity to learn new Hawaiian words, hear the pronunciation, and be spurred to research and learn more about the places they pass through. These names and the announcements do symbolic work of marking the space as local. The Hawaiian station names also gain prominence via usefulness as the most efficient way to use online trip planners to schedule a transit trip, as searching for these names points to the exact station location, rather than a general contemporary name that references a larger surrounding area. Names are valuable because they are precise and index something identifiable, a fixed reference. As with our pets, a new child, a home, giving something a name conveys its uniqueness and its value. And forming a Hawaiian station naming working group conveys the importance of this process. Next, I wondered, how do passengers who don't ride every day utilize, conceptualize, and remember station names and announcements? Do occasional riders or first-time riders, are those riding for fun, notice language and symbols in the same way? What about children?
Please stand back from the track gates. The gates are preparing to close.
Hi, how are you?
Sorry, was that recorded?
Yes, perfect.
Welcome to the West Side.
Thank you. For this next interview, I went to ride the rails myself with two occasional riders, a mother and her young son, who often ride for fun. Hi, John. How are you today?
Good.
What are you doing today, right now?
Well, I'm here to ride the train to go somewhere.
What's your favorite thing about riding the train?
Well, I eat snacks and play with mommy.
Do you hear people talking on the train?
Some people say aloha.
Oh, yeah? Yay, the train. Let's get on.
Yeah.
Just shaka? Oh,
Did you just get a
did she
shaka?
wave at you, or did you just shaka like a good little aloha boy?
Doors are closing. Please hold on.
Easy with that shaka.
It's not clear who initiated the shaka, but shakas were exchanged. A local gesture on local transit.
Don't do this or this or this.
What do you think it's saying? What can you tell by the pictures?
No.
No. How do you know it means no?
Because it has the X
Oh, very
and
smart.
these. And this is all that you only do this.
Okay, how do you know this is what you're supposed to do?
Because it says yes.
Yes. The
Because
shape.
You have to be safe.
JB noticed the universal visual symbols for do and don't in public space. A red X, a red circle with a line through it. These mean no and don't. A green check mark, a green circle. These tell us it's yes, what we need to do to be safe. Seeing that even the youngest passengers recognize them reminded me that linguistic landscapes do include some universals that speak across languages and don't require literacy in any of them.
So there's this one, and then after that is the last stop, the one by Kroc Center. I think my stop's really good, and I really like it. I like these Waipahu ones. I think they're well built and well thought out and very close to like bus stops and whatever. I think LCC is also great because like you are on campus, like when you get off the bus. I think those are all well thought out. Pro Ridge, I don't like that Highlands one.
Were you going to a destination when you got off there, or was it just
The Pro Ridge one?
or any of them? Yeah.
Yeah, LCC one, we were going to the STEM festival there, so we got off there. Pro Ridge, we were going to the farmer's market, and then when we got there, we were like...
What I'm secretly listening for is, which station name will she use? I noticed she didn't really use any of the Hawaiian station names. Instead, she mentioned LCC, Pearl Highlands, Pearl Ridge, the Waipahu ones, and the one by Kroc Center. An infrequent writer, she does not conceptualize the Hawaiian station names, but perhaps she isn't really thinking of the contemporary station names per se either. She conceives of the stations based on where she's going during those unique weekend trips for fun and farmers markets and festivals. She's not thinking about the stations at all, but her actual destination. But she does notice the presence of the Hawaiian language and its position, where it is being emplaced relative to English, and what this in itself communicates.
Like the announcement, it says, you know, like, please sit down and we're now going to move, and then it says it in Hawaiian. So it does speak a lot of Hawaiian. Pretty much one for one. Anything it says in English, it says in Hawaiian too. That I noticed. I think when you're writing, I might not be paying attention, but I think it's always Native Hawaiian first. Or like very together. This one too, the sign has Native Hawaiian first and then the English translation next to it.
What does that convey?
Yeah, I think again, this is just kind of going back to like they're obviously putting importance on the Native Hawaiian language as the primary language, right? Which is great. It seems like almost museum, very educational, like it seems like you're really trying, and then that's how you perpetuate something, right? And perpetuate the culture and the language. I think it's still inspiring to see other people trying, to see governance trying, right? Like, because that's all I can do is try.
My main question started with, what do passengers notice about language on Skyline, and do they notice the announcements and the Hawaiian station names? Even occasional writers like Ricky notice the announcements in Hawaiian duplicating English, showing that the language is living, real, vibrant, and not just something you might learn in school. Next stop, we'll be talking with passengers on the street, stopping riders for brief interviews as they wait for the train, primarily to ask one simple question. Which station do you use?
The next stop is Ioneai, UH West Oahu Station. Doors will open on the right side.
So do you consider yourself to be a rail fan?
I do love mass transit. I love rails. Unfortunately, I am not in a position to benefit from this rail just yet.
Yeah. Why is that?
It doesn't reach anywhere that I need to go.
But here you are today.
You're right. I'm here to be a supportive partner, and I thought we were going to get ice cream.
So far, we've talked at length with one daily commuter and two occasional riders, asking what they notice about language on the rail and what the use of Olelo Hawaii conveys in the stations and on the trains. Next, I take a ride on Skyline, and I try out a person-on-the-street interview style to elicit which station names passengers use.
So which station would you go to if you wanted ice cream?
I think the Ho'opili one.
Oh yeah. We couldn't remember the other day.
The one by Terry's house.
We're talking about Honouliuli Station, but instead of using the Hawaiian station name, we refer to 3 landmarks: an ice cream shop, the Ho'opili housing development, and the contemporary place name of the station, and where our friend lives. Instead of naming Honouliuli Station, even me, a student of linguistic landscapes, and her very supportive partner may still conceptualize geography and refer linguistically to a station based on the nearby landmarks we recognize, especially if there's ice cream.
The destination of this train has changed. The new destination is Kualakai, East Kapolei Station.
Okay. Oh, you guys are doing a project?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this rail is good.
Oh yeah? You like it?
Because I live in Kapolei, in Ho'opili.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I guess like November, October, they're gonna the stop is gonna be like Makalapa, Pearl Harbor, I think. No, Makalapa Airport and Middle Street.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all the way. Yeah. So you're gonna ride all the way there? You need.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the way to Ho'opili.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I try to use my card because I get a free card.
Oh,
from
that's
work
nice.
because I work in I work on base. When I take the rail from Ho'opili,
Yeah.
so the last stop is the stadium, and then you take the bus, and it stopped at Makalapa Gate.
Okay.
And then from
This regular commuter used only the contemporary place names to refer to all of the stations she mentioned, including the future stops at Airport and Middle Street, the current terminus at the stadium, and Ho'opili, referring to the housing development by Honouliuli Station. The only exception was when she referred to the future Makalapa Station with that Hawaiian station name, but that's probably because that's already the name of the gate at the base.
Yeah. So which stations do you use for the
I
train?
use, well, I live Ever Beach, so I catch bus from Ever Beach to Waipahu, then I hop on the rail at Waipahu, and then I get off over here because I work in South Lake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Or what stops do you get off? Or like?
Usually, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the one like Waipahu, like near the Seafood City area.
Oh yeah.
Donkey, what they used to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty much usually there or like around Pearl Ridge area. If I stop at Kapolei.
These passengers aren't using any station names, Hawaiian or otherwise. Instead, they speak mostly about the ultimate destination where they're going: Waipahu, Salt Lake, Seafood City, Donkey, Pearl Ridge Shopping Center. It's not about the station, which isn't even really a stop along their way, but just a point passed during their journey. Can we find anyone who uses the Hawaiian station names in conversation?
I used UH West Oahu Station because I usually commute all the time. I commute by city bus from my house. From my house to the bus stop takes about 20-minute walk.
Oh, nice. Do you love riding the train and the bus?
Yes, I do.
Which one do you like better, or both?
I do both.
Me too. I love transit so much.
Yeah.
Have you noticed the voice on the bus and the voice on the train?
Yeah, I know.
Are the same person?
They're pretty much the same person.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you use any other stops?
I use other stops. I use something use Ho'ai. Sometimes I use Ho'ai, Keone'ai, and Halawa Station. That's what I use so far.
Nice.
Here we have the opposite of the first few riders, a passenger who casually uses the Hawaiian station names as a matter of course: Ho'ai, Keone'ai, Halawa. These are not all the easiest place names to say or read on sight if you're not familiar with Hawaiian. It seems like he's paid attention to the announcements, absorbing the names in regular commute trips. Or he's familiar with Hawaiian, or he just likes them and took the time to learn. I thought at first he might be a big transit nerd like me, but then he's completely blasé about the voice of the bus and the train being pretty much the same person.
West Lock? West Lock?
Oh, Waipahu was right. And then the last one to go Kamakana.
Oh, okay. Energy. How about y'all?
The same thing.
Same.
This is my first time.
This is your first time?
Sweet
So exciting.
Because I need to go grocery shopping.
Oh, cool. Okay. So where you go? Which stop will you use today?
We're going to the West Lock.
West Lock today. Cool. Nice. How did they convince you? They're just.
I bribed him with food.
Nice. That works well.
Yeah, that's a deal.
Food seems to be a strong motivator for bringing anyone you love on the train. And the names of the Waipahu stations seem to escape a lot of people. You just need to know where you're going, not necessarily what it's called.
Can I just ask what station you're going to?
Keonei.
Keonei. Oh, thank you so much. Hi there. Could I ask you what station you're going to? Keonei also. Thank you.
More Ke'one'ai, a harder to pronounce name that doesn't appear regularly in contemporary place naming. Good evidence that these names are becoming known and used.
Hi, what station are you going to?
Waipahu Transit Center.
Waipahu Transit Center. Thank you. What station are you going to?
Waipahu.
Waipahu. Okay. Thank you. Hi. Hi there. What station are you going to? The Transit Center. Ah, okay, good. Thank you.
That's 2 points for Ke'one'ai, the Hawaiian station name, and 3 points for Waipahu Transit Center. All in all, in research lingo, I would say these results seem mixed. In lay terms, we have a three-way tie between Hawaiian station names, contemporary place names for the stations, and simply focusing on where you're going once you leave the train and the station. In this case, mixed results seem positive to me. That is, we have evidence that the Hawaiian station names are indeed used in general usage by passengers, just not all of them, and not all of the time. For a future, longer, possibly statistically minded study, one might try to discern patterns in who chooses which station names, or predicting which stations are more likely to be referenced by their Hawaiian index, rather than contemporary or nearby landmarks. These person-on-the-street style interviews revealed that the findings would be more varied than I had anticipated. Specifically, it had not occurred to me before starting this project that some passengers wouldn't use or even know any name for their usual stations at all. As descriptive linguists say, it doesn't really matter whether you're using the, quote, correct grammatical forms, as long as you communicate what you want to convey. In descriptive transit planning, I guess it doesn't matter what something is called, as long as you can get where you want to go. Ride, skyline ride, skyline ride. Ride to Pohala ride, skyline ride, skyline ride. Ride to Halava ride, skyline ride, skyline ride. Honouli'uli ride, skyline ride, skyline ride. Ku'alakai ride. Before leaving Skyline for the day, we stopped to press all the buttons on the holocard machine. The only languages on the train are English and Hawaiian. But the holocard machines are a much more multilingual creature.
Ha'ono, limaono, noke kokua.
日本語の場合は8を押します。You are here. Halawa. Please select your language.
Paumanhin po. Ang suportang nagsasalita ay hindi maibibigay sa wikang ito. Pakitawagan ang Customer Service Center sa telepono bilang 808-768-4656 para sa karagdagang tulong.
E kalamai, a ohe kako ono ke ia o lalo. E kelepona aku I ko kako ke ena kako o.
When you try to get to that main information screen, and I'm assuming if you want to buy a card, that they offer 2, 4, 6, 8 languages, but really only English, Japanese, Chinese, and Korean actually take you to a screen where you can do something like buying a card. And the other 4 languages, so Tagalog, Olelo Hawaii, Samoan, and Ilocano, will take you to some kind of an error page and ask you to call a customer service line.
Why isn't the Holocard machine fluent in Olelo Hawaii? Or in any of the other Indo-Pacific languages commonly spoken in our community? The Holocard machine, just like me, your friendly narrator, can only say a few things and apologize profusely for not knowing more. E kala mai. Please call someone else who can help. It seems strangest of all that the train speaks beautiful Olelo, while the machine computer voice butchers halawa as halawa. You'd think we would be able to find someone who could record all of these messages in Hawaiian. But how would we find exactly the right person for this job?
Please hold on. The bus is departing. Stop requesting.
So where do we go next? How do you get to the root of the public transit soundscape in Honolulu? We go straight to the source.
Please hold on. Bus is departing.
It's amazing.
That's right. In case you, like me, can't believe your ears, we're now speaking with Puakea Nogomeyer, Hawaiian language scholar, University of Hawaii professor, and the voice you've been hearing on the bus and rail audio announcements this whole time. I had the great honor of sitting down to talk story with Puakea and with John Nuuchi, Deputy Director of the Department of Transportation Services.
As a transit nerd and linguist, you're a celebrity. You're a huge, enormous celebrity. And I wondered if you're aware of your celebrity status among transit
I know
riders.
that in my little pool I'm a big frog. You know,
Do you think of yourself as the voice of public transit?
it's part of the whole story, definitely. And I laughingly say I may accomplish wonderful things, and I'll bet it goes on my gravestone that he was the voice of the bus. I should just put stop requested.
Stop. Stop finally granted.
Yeah, stop granted. We have lots of private recordings that we made over the years that say like, this bus, next stop is hell.
Yeah. We
next
recorded heaven, hell,
the Twilight Zone,
paradise.
Yeah, this
God
bus
only
is
knows.
now entering the Twilight Zone.
It's funny to the extent that people have recognized this as part of who we are, like our identity on the bus. We had a dude that, remember, we actually had to get Corporation Counsel at the city involved. He wanted to get clips from his voice and like mix and loop music with it, and he wasn't even from here.
But he was through the Freedom of Information Act, because it was partly federally funded. He somehow could get rights to all the audio.
So what we ended up fighting that with, it came down to one conversation that we had. And when we wanted you to actually do the phone system, you said, no, I hate these phone systems. You said, I don't want to do that.
I did the phone system. In the
No, I know,
end.
you ended up doing it. But I remember you said that you didn't want your voice used for an unintended purpose other than what we were doing with it.
Yeah.
And so he told that to Corporation Counsel, and they're like, well, we're done then. We don't need to provide it. That's part of the terms of our agreement with you.
This is the first mention of Puakea doing a recording he didn't really want to do. Who likes those endless automated phone trees? Who would want to be the voice on something no one likes? But he agreed to do it. He is, after all, the voice of transit in Honolulu. And that responsibility is bigger than yourself. The voice becomes integral, critical. This voice is the transit system. I wondered if the enormity of this role was something he thought about from the beginning. How did it all start, anyway?
Because it was poetry class, actually,
I
that put you in my realm, isn't it?
I took it twice in the same semester
Yes,
with you.
yes.
At UH?
Yeah.
I had two sections of it, he took it both sections.
Because one of my friends wanted to be in it with us.
Okay.
And he hadn't cleared like the minimum. And so Puakea said, if he's going to be in it, then you have to help him.
So he was my student, but he was also working at the bus. When they were looking for a voice, he went, well, I got somebody who could say all the words, but his voice is too low.
Oh.
And they said, we could fix that, right?
Yeah.
Did you raise the voice then?
We raised it because I have a really low voice and my high range isn't very high, but I can get to the very top of it if I really press. And so that's what we aimed for, was my upper range. By the way,
So
the first time that I took the bus back up here, I have to say, I did not remember that we said my own street with exceptional exuberance. But as we're rolling up here and it says, you know, McCabe and Wailele, and then it goes, Anu! like you made it. I hear it and I remember that.
It's gotta be pretty surreal.
It is surreal. And when we got to Anu, and that cracked me up. This is in a different tenor than every street before it and every street after.
You say Kalihi kind of fondly too. Kalihi.
I can imagine it would be difficult not to say your familiar streets, your neighborhood, differently than all the other stops, and not show any favoritism. But then, why would you want to remove all of the humanity from it? We could program a computer to pronounce Halawa and Anu'u correctly, but who wants a computer to welcome you aboard?
So Pukea has this quality where if you want to believe that he's a disembodied voice that is robotic or an AI voice, you could believe that. But he pronounces Hawaiian quite right. And yeah, a lot of people are surprised that he's an actual person.
That's right. I got interviewed up at UH by the students who had no idea that the voice of the bus was actually on campus, right? I've had people say, you know, I'll get introduced as the voice of the bus. They go, I always thought that was a robot.
I had read that originally the voice was recorded by a guy from Texas or something like that.
It was.
They contracted some
Larry
voice.
from Luminator.
I'm from Texas. My dad's name is Larry. But we are not equipped in any way to do this recording. So.
But it had to be done phonetically,
We had to
right?
write everything out
And that's,
phonetically.
were you in charge of it? I mean, who had to actually do that?
It was so hard to articulate phonetically the things that an English speaker would, intonation that they would put in.
Yeah.
Like the word pono. It would come out like pono.
Pono.
Like there's like an H in it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to like write like meh, like kamehameha, right? Aspiration.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to write M-A-Y because it's going to be kamehameha.
Yeah.
So that was challenging on its own, and we did what we could do.
How was he selected?
The system that we bought at the time, they had a proprietary audio format. They had a recording booth set up. They had to do it in Plano, Texas.
So I grew up in Denton, Texas, which in Texas terms is really close to Plano. Could I ever have imagined I was right down the road from a guy recording the onboard annunciator audio for the bus in Honolulu, Hawaii? No more than I could have imagined I would ever one day be a passenger on that system, much less a daily rider.
And they changed all the tech, and we had to redo everything. As the original company who had the technology was guiding all of that, but then they started gouging, and it was cheaper to get their own and make their own.
And it got to the point where the audio was what we really cared about, and it had to sound right. And I think that North Star we had from the beginning was that we were going to use a consistent pronunciation model. Because remember, you weren't sure that you wanted to do this at first.
Yeah, no, I mean, because it's so open to, you know, it's so public, and it's so, any mess up that we do, of course, would be public mess up. But also, I didn't want to be the guiding voice to the whole world. Well, it turns out you could do worse, I guess, you know.
You could definitely do worse than replacing a Texan on your Hawaiian language bus announcements. Even a Texan who I'm sure was doing the best that he could. As we say back home, bless his heart.
And what was it? It was like 30 hours.
Now we
to
probably
do the
have about
system.
6,000 phrases.
How long did you prepare for that? Sounds like that was on the fly, that very first one.
There was a binder.
Yeah.
It had been running for a long time then.
Okay.
But yeah, we just went through the binder. And our process is he would get me the names in advance so that I could be confident, because any of them, they're not all marked on the city streets, and some of them are mismarked. So we'd go through and find what we're confident in, and that's what we'd give it.
And when we didn't know, we recorded it both ways, and we have that for posterity.
So
we
that
didn't know, like,
yeah.
keolu or keolu, pau or pau or pau.
Yeah, or pa'u, yeah, pick.
Yeah. Sometimes people will complain because they think they know better.
Oh.
Because they grew up, that's how their kupuna said it, and we will try to blunt that a little bit. Pokea has stepped in for us a couple times.
To explain, well, this is why we've chosen this pronunciation. You know, I don't really get into right and wrong, and they've gotten me on TV a number of times to try to get, you know, well, when you hear people say Wainaya, I said, you know what, if you say Wainaya and you can find your way home, it's right. It's not Hawaiian. And so Hawaiian carries a body of information in it with a particular pronunciation. Change the pronunciation, you change the information. That's the way it works.
Here is this example again. If you can get where you're going, maybe it doesn't matter exactly what you call it. But if you're going to be the voice, you want to be very deliberate about how you say everything, because everyone is going to hear it all day, every day, and this will inevitably have an impact.
We did a survey of our bus operators, and we have a 25% of our bus operators are Native Hawaiian. And I think it was like a high percentage, like 80-something% said they had changed how they pronounce something that they've pronounced differently their whole life based on being exposed to his voice for about 5 years.
Because there's an element of a credible and consistent public model.
Pronunciation model, too, yeah.
Because you can hear Kane'ohe said 5 ways in the course of a day. You know, radio, TV, different broadcasters, but to hear it always Kane'ohe, Kane'ohe, Kane'ohe. And it's consistent and it's reliable. I have X amount of cred, you know.
So, I mean, then the responsibility, it almost became like this kuleana, not to overuse the word and play olelo bingo, but that we had to be right.
I spend an hour in the studio. I always bill for an hour of looking, as there's always a preparatory. And I want to walk through them, and I want to be able to say them. So I think everybody invests the time in it.
The non-Hawaiian ones are often the worst, because we don't know. Right down here in Liliha, is it Bachelot? Bachelo?
It's Bachelo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And many of them we do know. And sometimes we know more than what's available. Unfortunately, I still get flack all the time about Ina Road, which the city spelled Ena, E-N-A.
Within Okina.
And then they put the Okina.
Yeah.
For 25 years it was E-N-A, but everybody knew it was Ina Road. But the guy's name was Ing. To Hawaiianize the name Ing, it should have been I-N-A. So the city put up the wrong sign. And then they put an Okina on it, which now I don't have a choice. It's no longer Ina Road or Ing Road. Now it's Ena Road.
But there are exceptions, and I think there are 4 of them that we know we're not pronouncing it how maybe
It's
even
marked.
the family pronounces it.
Oh,
So-
Hoftailing.
Hoftailing, Eisenberg,
Yeah.
and Gulick.
Yes.
The Gulick family still exists here, and they have told us, we've communicated with them, look, it's Gulick, we say Gulick, but we know everybody says Gulick, so you can leave it.
They're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And it's like Hoftailing. If we were in Germany, it's actually Hottailing, right? But we're not in Germany. And if you said Hottailing, half the people who live on it wouldn't be able to recognize their stop. So
Eisenberg.
Yeah, Eisenberg.
Eisenberg.
So, and actually we get flack too on Beretania.
Beretania.
Which one do they prefer?
Well, it depends on who they is.
you ask.
But mostly they want on the penultimate Beretania.
Oh,
It comes from the word Pelicania.
But it comes from Britannia,
Britannia, yeah.
Okay.
not Britannia. And
So-
Britain turned into Pelicane. Britannia turned into Beretania. Tis
So-
the way of the world.
I'm so impressed to learn that they take as much care to pronounce the non-Hawaiian words as the Hawaiian. This attention to detail and respect for families and traditions and history across every word recorded.
I made you take 3 runs at this one, and we still never got it right.
Which one?
McKinley High School.
McKinley High School.
The way you say it is very local. McKinley High School.
And how would you like it? Give me a...
I mean, I don't know. I mean, people do call about that. They're like, there's a very local tone to it. Isn't it pronounced McKinley? Like
McKinley.
Mick? I'm like, look,
McKinley.
there was a dude that could not let it go, and he would call for like 3 years.
I do like how invested the people are, though. It's
That they
wonderful to hear that
care
they care. Yes.
is really kind of important. And the more people are aware and engaged, I think everybody that's drivers in this is really clear on that that's a respectful thing to do. And that doesn't just honor blood Hawaiians, that honors Hawaii. And that really, it shows respect for the entirety of Hawaii, because that is the foundation upon which everything else is happening here. So
I've been interviewing passengers of the bus and also the rail because I've been asking about the Hawaiian station names. They all notice them, appreciate them, and many have mentioned they end up researching the name more, whether Googling it or
Just
looking at the
hearing it,
Mo'olelo display.
So that was a commitment that the former Heart CEO, Dan Grabowskis, made for
That's
the Native
who-
Hawaiian community. That's who actually, he said, you're going to be the guy.
yeah, he asked me to be, because I told him I don't like the rail.
Wait, what?
you were right up front. Like, I don't support this, but it's here.
I went, okay, but to be upfront, I don't like the rail. I didn't want it. I voted against it, and it's being put in against my will. And yes, I'll be the voice.
Do you remember where you were?
The voice of the rail doesn't like the rail? This really stopped me in my tracks. Pun definitely intended. It never occurred to me that one of the core elements of passengers' experience on rail did not agree with the rail. And yet, he agreed to do it anyway. Just like the phone trees.
He said, would you be the voice on it? I said, yes.
For consistency.
I said, yeah, well, for consistency and for reach and for the commitment to public modeling. It's the only modeling career I'm ever going to get, okay? No, but I think of it as service. I really do it because I think it's an important thing to do.
As someone once said, you could do worse.
But to that extent, that commitment to not only have the Hawaiian Station name, but to put it first. I think that was the commitment.
Well, that's this issue of, respect. And the team, no, I wasn't on the team that selected the names, and that was intentional. I'm already invested enough, and I got enough other things going on. That's an investment that somebody else should be dealing with.
But we did credit him as being advisory.
Well, and when questions came up, I'm supportive and encouraging. Let's make knowledge where it can happen.
With this project, I've been asking how Skyline's linguistic landscape and soundscape are constructed. Who chooses the station names, the language, and the stories involved, and for what purpose? Is the planning process anti-conquest, placing Olelo Hawaii on a pedestal? Does it represent marketing to sell something? Or does it seek to achieve reconquest by backgrounding Western names, prioritizing Olelo Hawaii, and giving Hawaiian names the power to claim meaning on the land, as an opportunity, as he said, to make knowledge where it can happen?
But you gave me something to chew on that I lost sleep over, and it had to do with naming the first station, the East Kapolei, the Kualaka'i station. And it was based on a story that someone had shared with the group. His contention was Kualaka'i was a contraction of Kaulu Kahai. And I remember you looked at me, we were sitting in that room, and you said, when do we do this?
What other examples
would we have dishonored a chiefly name by
contracting it so much?
That much.
I mean, there's contractions happen. Mo ili ili is actually from Kamo'o ili ili, right? It does happen in small settings. Li'i for ali'i.
But so, to take Kaulu o Kahai.
And erase Kahai out of it. I vaguely do remember that because I remember hearing it.
I didn't know what to do though. Yeah. Because it was kind of picked. The street is already named that. He had worked with State Department of Transportation.
How can we work with a background on it?
So we looked at the mission statement for the group, and the mission statement said we could synthesize new names based on cultural or other well-rooted values.
It's clear that the naming process was steady and thoughtful. And within the group, and for those observing from the outside, there would inevitably be disagreements and difficult decisions. But the power to decide was truly ceded to the working group. Real power to name the stations within the deliberately laid out mission statement. This intent has impact.
So on the rail, how did you decide which of the onboard announcements to have start in Olelo Hawaii?
We actually recorded much more that you don't hear. Even the emergency announcements have an Olelo component to it, and I think
they're all bilingual, right?
Yeah.
But whether they're actually utilized or not is a decision from the.
I think they're all deployed.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this. Somewhat. This is the sternest I've heard of you. Please do not block the doors. The train cannot depart.
Do I sound stern?
You know what really sounds stern is mai alai na puka alehiki ke ha'alele.
Very fatherly.
It's very nice.
Don't
it's
block
still nice, but
keep it nice.
Was there ever consideration of naming the Skyline something other than Skyline, like a?
There's a long discussion. There's a few years of that, huh?
So yes, we went through a branding exercise. We actually went through 2 branding exercises. We had a whole bunch of names that came out. We started off with the first branding exercise was about 300 names, whittled down to 150, whittled down to 10, whittled down to 5. 2 were
fought over.
Yeah. And I think we got to this point where we realized that not everything has to be in Hawaiian. And we felt like if we tried to force something that didn't quite fit right, It would be
Yeah.
inauthentic, and people would know. And there were some that we really liked. Like, we liked the idea of kui, because the line strings together the communities and the stations like you're stringing a lei. But there's the side meanings of kui and to strike. And to name,
And
like,
kui is a needle, and kui is, so.
but so the flower for Oahu is the ilima flower.
As decided by the 1928 legislature. But
So inauthentic too, right?
Yeah.
But we thought that, it's good to have an orange. I mean, it would be really easy to brand something.
Yeah.
And one of my issues was everything is city and county of Honolulu, not Oahu. So that would be a way to kind of bring it back to the island. But when we looked at it in test, we had people that weren't from here. They're pronouncing it Ilima, not Ilima.
Yeah.
And we had like some Hispanic people who spoke Spanish, and they looked at the double L's. Yeah, Jima. So we're like,
Yimna.
and this is coming at a time when we have more people who have moved here than were born here.
Yeah,
It's a seesaw that we're not. We're
just
not,
a reality to
yeah.
address. I remember Lulu being one of the.
Well, that's for the
elements.
card. So the whole card, we went through this whole process again. So we also looked at moku, like mokupuni or mokulele, or just this idea of a ship.
Yeah.
Vessel. Ola was another one we thought about. But we had a copyright issue with the brewing company.
Although the similarities are so striking.
It would have been drunkenness. But in the end, we brought this to Mayor when he first came on in 2021. And, he's from Cambridge. He still has his accent. And he's very pragmatic about certain things. And he goes, why do you need me to make a decision on this right now? Because rail was a hot potato topic for him. Like, he didn't even know. He hadn't established his own feeling for it.
Setting, yeah.
So in the end, he goes, I don't want to make a decision now because it could be a bad one, and I don't know that yet. So we actually didn't pick the brand name until we were like 2 months away from opening.
It was not long before you had me recording it.
Yeah. It was actually the day after.
Oh.
No.
Yes.
I know we were doing Skyline.
Yeah.
This, to me, dispels any suspicion that the naming process may have been used as a ploy. If they wanted to say, look how Hawaiian we're being, they could have just forced a Hawaiian name onto Skyline. We have stations named Honouliuli, Keoneai, and Ho'ai'ai, but we don't call the whole system Kui, or Moku, or Ilima. We have Skyline, because that felt like the right name for the whole. I wish that this kind of commitment and thoughtfulness were more well known and more part of the public conversation around rail.
I went to the bus and said, okay, I'm old, I'm blind, and I want the longest bus pass I can get. And she went, well, it's a 1-year thing. She says, but I know who you are. You're the voice of our bus.
Yeah.
And then she said, you're the reason I learned Hawaiian. Did I tell you about that?
No, I did not
It
know
was
about that.
so sweet. I was really touched. She said, I'm Korean, I'm raised here, and I always was interested in Hawaiian, but I thought, well, I'm not Hawaiian. Then when I found out that the voice on our bus isn't Hawaiian either, but he became an expert in Hawaiian. And she said, I just thought, well, I can. And so she took, and so we ended up going on Hawaii.
This moment is really key for me. It speaks back to Precious commenting that having the Hawaiian station names leads passengers to look up the new words and learn more on their own. To Ricky's comments about hearing Olelo used out in the real-world environment and exposing you to phrases, pronunciation, and information about the places where we live. This moment in the interview changed me the most in the course of the project, and left me almost as stunned as I was when Puakea Nogelmeyer, the voice of the bus, responded with warmth and enthusiasm to my email and agreed to meet with me for this podcast. Before this moment, I also didn't know that the voice of the bus isn't Hawaiian. I would never have known. And I'm decidedly not Hawaiian. I'm just a lady from Denton, Texas, who had never dreamed of recording the announcements for the bus in Honolulu. And while that's still true, I have learned a lot simply from being a passenger on the bus and hearing the announcements, and having a very public model, of pronunciation and care. And as Ricky said in our interview, all I can do is my best. And my best is to try and learn as much as possible and participate as much as I can in foregrounding, perpetuating, and celebrating the language of the place I now call home. So, lucky I live Hawaii, and lucky there is a voice that takes me to work and school every day. It can be, in part, my guide.
You know, I presented on this to the Auckland City Council. They have a Te Reo Maori program. And how did we do this? And I'm like, it's funny when you ask us how we did this. We just did it and didn't deviate from what we wanted to do.
They have all the same urban issues, but they have like 5 overlapping languages. So where we say Waikiki, they would have 4 different pronunciations. Yeah, they'd have Waititi, Waikiti,
So they'll really get phone calls complaining.
Well,
this should be.
They had to make a decision. The dialect that place is in would take priority. So even though you're coming from Ewa where they say Waititi, if the people that live there say Waikiki, you pay homage to that. Suck it up, buttercup. Yeah. Even though they talk about Waititi all the time. When you go to Waikiki, you do it their way. Yeah. When in Rome.
When in Waikiki, the locals choose how to spell and pronounce Waikiki. This is Herman's definition of reconquest. The indigenous people are empowered to make naming decisions and control meaning. This is the first step. And how do we keep it going?
That's the story of voices. We started up with this out of my poetry class, and it's 26 years now or something.
Yeah, 26 years.
Quite a run. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And I get lower and lower and lower, and we adapt, and we have to find an audio heir, basically. I mean, who's going to take over when?
I would not want somebody who is known as a personality, because that's going to contribute to an inauthenticity.
Flavors.
We basically changed the no smoking announcement, and everybody kind of lost their minds about it.
Oh, what is it?
Because you did a no smoking or vaping on the bus.
Oh.
You did a new one, and everybody was like, "Oh, what's up with this?" Because I think it used to say, "Please, no eating, drinking, or smoking on board the bus." We had to do vaping, and we swapped it out. Everybody's like, "What? Like, this is new." So they know.
I noticed on the rail when it's going out of service, this lady, it's like a computer lady.
That's a text-to-speech, yeah. So we're gonna take care of some of the more common text-to-speech things that they've learned that they need.
Yeah.
And we're also gonna do exit here for, those kinds of audio.
Well, I'll just share as a closing that I love transit. I love the bus. I've always been a big rider, but I'm always very, very aware when I'm talking about transit that I'm this holiday lady that's from the mainland that came here and is talking about the bus. So I just love being able to talk to other people who love transit.
Well, I'm a holy guy who came to the mainland.
What is the term you used to use? Haole maoli.
Haole maoli. And once in a while I call myself a paiheva. Accidental landing.
I mean, that's true though.
Yeah, as we wrap up, when we had to redo the whole system, John said, the drivers have said, please don't lose the sincerity that's in that, because you sound like you care. Please use caution when exiting the bus.
And really, what could be more authentic than this advice? Don't lose the sincerity. Sound like you care. Please use caution when exiting the bus.
Please don't end rail at Meadow Street. I like go get something to eat. Ride the rail all day, ride the bus all night, 'cause Skyline don't run till the morning light. Skyline, ooh, wow, ooh. Rail, everybody ride rail.
As this podcast comes to an end, I want to express my deep thanks to everyone who spoke with me during the recording. Mahalo to Precious Arau, to Ricky and her son JB, to the many anonymous persons on the street who were willing to talk to me while they waited to board Skyline, to my wife Denise for moral support and extra bravery while I interrupted those strangers on the platform, for interrupting them for me because I was too shy. I still owe y'all ice cream. Thank you to Dr. Higgins and my classmates in Second Language Studies, our Fall 2024 Sociolinguistics class, and Spring 2025 Linguistic Landscape Seminar at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. An enormous mahalo nui loa to Puake Nogomeyer and John Nucci for their time talking story with me and telling stories so generously, warmly, and openly. even when I was losing my star-struck mind. And of course, mahalo to all the operators of the bus and the Skyline Station attendants who take us everywhere we want to go on Oahu.
Please hold on. The bus is departing.